Real life military. Today, we're going to talk about buying a house and going through the actual numbers. Last video, I ranted about how you should spend your money, and the first option I gave you, and the best one, was buying a house. So today, we're going to go through um, the actual mortgage loan, like what you will actually get, principal, interest, and appreciation. I will give you an example where we go to a loan, and I'll show you the actual breakdown and if you can afford it or not. And it's all going to be relative. So I'm going to give you an example of where I live because I know how much BAH I make and what the house costs are over here. And then I will do a breakdown of my house and what I have got. And we'll see if all the numbers line up and if it's all good. All right. So the average house cost in the US right now is $352,000. And the interest rate right now is sitting at 7.7. So now we're going to go over and look at just a average loan calculator. You can find these anywhere. They're all about the same. So up here, you're going to put in the value of the home, if you're doing a down payment or not. If you have a VA loan, of course, you don't have to do a down payment. The loan amount, which will be the same as the value if you're not putting anything down. And then here's the interest rate, which right now it's 7.7. The term and the start date, the property tax, all this is already put in for the average right now. So we're going to go ahead and put in the average house cost for Hawaii. And right now that is sitting at $729,000. So we'll go through that right now. What did I just say? It was 700. We'll say 730. 730. All right. Zero down payment for VA loan. 7.7, and we will calculate that. So when we calculate that, we go down, and your monthly payment is going to be right here. And let me tell you, that is high. So for right now, at 5,000, we'll go 400 just for nice round even numbers. Right now, BAH for my rank at E6 is around $3,300. So you need another $2,000 right now, which is rough. That is rough. When I bought my house, I think I only needed an extra $300 a month. So right there, that discourages everybody right there. So right now, if you just got to Hawaii and say you didn't have any money for a down payment, and you didn't have a second job or any other form of income, but for a condo, it's definitely a lot lower. But right now we're talking about a single family home for someone that has kids or someone who wants to rent it out with other people. So right there, that can be discouraging. So right now, if you're watching this and you have a family, a wife and kids, and you're like, well, just click, turn it off. No. So right there, that shouldn't stop you. What you can do is we can put in other numbers to actually see what you can afford. So that's what we're going to do right now. So while you can't afford it right now, you can save up. And that's what you should do with anything. So we'll go back up here. And what makes it different right here is this one. This number right here is huge. It's the interest rate. So what if we popped it down to a 5? And in 2018, when I got my loan, my house loan, it was 3.5. And then it went down to, no, I got 3.75. And for a VA loan, you can only refinance if it goes down 0.5. So then it went down to 3.2. I refinanced again. And then it finally went down to 2.2 and I refinanced again. But when you do that, you actually get 2 months where you don't have to pay the loan off. And a lot of people just take that as like an extra form of income, and you shouldn't. You should just slap that right back on the loan. So you're not taking that away from your loan. So we'll go ahead and put the 5 in, and we'll estimate again because it was 5,500 last time. So now we're going to calculate it. And when we calculate it this time, it is 4,100. So right there, we just went from about 2,100 to 4,100. minus 3 to 800. 800 is totally doable. Even if it's just picking up a second job or cutting your budget. And this is taking into account that you are solely the only earner and your wife stays at home. If your wife has a job too, then you could totally make that 7.7 work. So from that, when we put this in, you see all this. This is the yearly schedule right here. So if you bought in 2024, you would pay this much in interest, 24,000, and you would pay this much in principal. Principal is what you actually pay off on your loan. So out of the whole year, you're only paying off 7,000, right? So when we put in this right here, so we're going to go ahead and do this where we have the home appreciation rate is 4.3. So if we do that, say we have the loan at 730,000 in 5 years, you had the house for 5 years, you would have paid off in principal, you'd paid off $53,000. So that's actually money that you have that you've paid off on your loan. So if you sold your house and it didn't go up in price and it didn't go down in price, you would have $53,000. So you can think of that as money that you're actually saving. That's money that you have invested right there. But that's not the only thing that you have. You have appreciation. And appreciation rate is right here, which is 4.3 right now, 4.3%. And when I did these calculations when I first got my house, it was at 3.5. So that was 6 years ago, and it's went up 0.8. So that number is just going to keep on going up as time goes on, right? So with a total appreciation, your house would go from, well, let's just put it in right here. So, and this is a really good calculator to use for really anything that you want to. So this is a compound interest calculator. So if you put 730,000 and then you put an interest rate of 4.3 for 5 years, and you enter this in, then your house would have went up $174,000. And that's the average, right? So maybe it will, maybe it won't. You don't know. But even if you half of that right there is still, about 90,000. So we're just going to go off this because this is the average. So when you go back, then that means if you sold in 5 years, your house would have went up $174,000. And you've also would have paid off $53,000. So that would be a grand total of $227,000 in 5 years with a zero down payment, with just paying your monthly payment. Like, that's wild. And that is great. And that's with just BAH, and putting the extra 800 or whatever interest rate that you are okay with. If you've been responsible enough, or if your spouse works as well, then you could make that work. So just with putting an extra 800 or even $2,000, whatever it is, or saving up until you're ready for that point, you could make that much. So going back to that, if you have that down, that would equal out to be, let me go back screen. So that would equal out to, that $227,000 would equal out to like $45,000 a year that you basically bring in, that you would make from your house just by paying your monthly payment. Monthly, that's almost $4,000. So if you think about it as money that you're actually making, you could add $4,000 monthly that you are making, and $45,000 extra a year that you're making on top of what else you're doing. And that's what I was talking about, that you would make more than your peers just by owning a house. And that's what I mean by that. And now I'm going to show you mine. So this is what I bought my house for in 2018, $620,000. Right now, this is what my principal's at. I paid $56,000. Mine's a little lower because I've refinanced twice, and that kind of slows it down just a little bit. But in the long run, it it takes my monthly payment down. So I didn't add that. So I didn't add this, but at the very beginning, my BH has been around $3,000. It's went up a little bit over the years, but when I first bought my house, I had to pay extra over my BAH, like 300 or $400,000. And every single time I refinanced twice, and it went down $400 a month that I was actually paying. So my monthly payments went down 400. So the first time I did it, I went from paying 300 over BAH to going to banking $100 of BAH. Then the second time, it went down another 400. So I was banking 500 of what I off my BAH, and I still own my home, which is fantastic. I mean, I got an interest rate of 2.2, which is like unheard of, but interest rates will go down as time goes. So with my house appreciation, it's been up. So I bought it at 620. It's up to 840, and that's $223,000. And if you add that to what I've paid off, that 56,000, that equals 280,000 over 8 years. That gives me a yearly of $34,000. And if you put that in, that is 4.3%. So a little under, but that's still the annual appreciation rate that you will get. So that's a little breakdown of the actual numbers of buying a house. And if you do it right and save your money, you could get it at an interest rate that you could actually pay for. And the only reason I used Hawaii, those numbers are really high. Like, this is one of the highest cost of living places, but it's all relative. So people that are stationed in Virginia or like Georgia or Florida, your BH is going to be lower, but your house price is also going to be lower. Well, maybe not Florida. Florida is really expensive all around, but it varies. So a house in Virginia that's 400 or 300,000, you're going to be getting less BAH. So that's one thing you have to think about, is where you're living, you make more and things cost more. But when it comes to housing, I'm making way more money than someone that's living in a place with cheaper housing. So that is how just buying a house will raise your income. And over time, that's just going to keep on going. I've had my house for 6 years now. I'm still guaranteed 2 more years here in Hawaii. And then after that, I have 4 more years, and hopefully I just stay here, and that just keeps on adding up. But even if I leave this place, I could rent it out just free. So I wouldn't have to pay anything. The renters would pay 100% of my loan because my interest rate is so low. And if you stay in a place long enough, I think it would take around 5 years. 3 years would be pushing it. But even if you left and you paid off that, because you could go somewhere else, stay in base housing somewhere else, keep your original home, and just pay on the extra that the renters aren't paying. And you still get to keep that asset, and that asset keeps on building. And if you bought now at 7.7, the interest rates, you could catch it when it hits that 5 or that 4 or even that 3, if it ever gets that low again. And that would bring that monthly payment down. So if you're 500 over and you get it at 4.5, I think that would make you break even right there. So just sticking in long enough, staying consistent, and keeping that money up. And the house should be the first thing you do. The second thing is like learning how to make another income to supplement the house, because that's the biggest asset that you will ever have right there is the house, most likely. Well, the first biggest thing, like, not a lot of people are going to have something else besides housing that is going to make them that much more money. So I hope that was a good breakdown with actual numbers, so you can think of your head as like a monthly or yearly payment that you get on top of having a house that's going to keep on going up in price no matter what, and that you're going to pay into, but it's also going to raise in price. And that's what an asset is. An asset is something that you buy that goes up in price. A liability is something that you buy that goes down in price, like a car. As soon as you buy a car, drive it off the lot, it loses like 10, 30, 40% of its price right there, right? So besides that, with housing, the only other thing is thinking about after, like, once you get a lot of equity in. Oh yeah, so that's the thing. So principal is 100% what you're going to get. because the market could turn like crazy, even though I'm 200 and something, 200,000 over of what I bought it. It could go down, but the principal is something that you actually have. And with that principal, you can actually take loans out of it and do cash out refinances and all that stuff. But that comes way later, and you will learn more about that once you buy a house. But that goes back to getting that pre-approval. Like, do the VA pre-approval just to see how much money you can actually get, where your credit score is, and how it all actually works. And then sit down with someone. Might as well, even if you know 100% that you can't buy a house, like, even like everyone thinks that they can't when when you probably could. So go out there and figure it out, because everyone should be buying a house if you're staying in the military for the long term. I mean, if you don't, then you are missing out big time. Later.